probably some cases misinformation that was given earlier. And just want to set the record straight so the people who've been following, listening, will not be confused. Yes, the budget statement or the document would have been over 600 pages long. And we all receive it electronically. Because graciously, Mr. Deputy President, the Parliament thought it was necessary to provide the devices to us. All of us have laptops. It was provided to us by the Parliament to ensure that, one, we will conform to the agreement that Grenada would have signed in reducing our carbon footprint and by the same time saving the environment. Because every piece of paper is as a result of the destruction of trees. And if we have to save the environment, and we're talking about climate change in this point in time, we need to. So when we speak about public health and the importance of everything hinged on public health, saving the environment is part of it. So we didn't get special privileges by having a big document. No, we all got it electronically. And by all means, we should follow this and obey the information that is given. Also, we heard about digital governance, and the budget did not capture enough. Mr. President, Mr. Deputy President, the budget statement covers a fiscal year. There's not everything the Minister of Finance could speak to on all the votes. He cannot. That's the responsibility of the line minister. The line minister gives those details. So, next time around, we're going to get this right. The suspension of the FRL. And that's a clause that is written in almost every document, every legislation, as it relates to responding in times of crisis. So loan agreement that has been signed today, you have that clause there to protect the state because we're living in dangerous times. Before COVID-19, as small island developing states, we were very concerned about the impact of climate change and the frequency and intensity of storms. And we know how crippling that is to our economies. So that clause was placed there also for medical emergency, pandemics. You have to give this government credit for thinking of this when the FRL was passed. So it was suspended at this point in time so that we will be able to get ourselves back on track. Yes, it speaks to debt to GDP ratio of 55%. By the suspension and with the loans that will be taken to finance the deficit in the budget of $18 million, will increase our debt to GDP ratio by 13% to 69%, to be exact, 68.8%. But let's look at what has happened over the last 7 years, Mr. Deputy President. When we came into government in 2013, the debt to GDP ratio was 108%. And in less than 7 years, we have reduced it to 56%. That's a commendable feat. So to bring it up by 13%, to respond to this medical emergency pandemic, and by the way, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the ECCB benchmark is 60% debt to GDP for all its members of the ECCU. We're just up by 9%. But looking at our record in the past few years, this is easy for us. As soon as the economy starts growing again, and there are signs of it, we will see the debt to GDP ratio declining, going further down. But at the same time, I spoke of issues of natural hazards and disasters and so forth. In 2004, Mr. Deputy President, when Hurricane Ivan passed, it devastated the country. We remember that. And who was hardest hit? The most vulnerable in our society. And what would have been the greatest need at this time? Housing for those vulnerable people. And the government went out to find support from its partners to give housing, affordable housing, to the people of this country. I thought it was an attack on the vulnerable people in this country, the poor and marginalized. When I heard, my honorable member on the other side would say, we went to get housing for the vulnerable and not the Governor General. I mean, the priority is so different. Why is it that we always take time to attack the marginalized in the community? Why is it it's so easy to beat on them? Come on. They're the ones that need the most. And today, Mr. Deputy President, this government would have moved into ensuring that we're looking to eliminate and eradicate pit toilets and so forth. The same vulnerable people in our societies, we are looking to elevate them and to give them that status by having, as we say, inside toilet and bathroom. But we found it, the member found it necessary to beat on them because we went and we find a grant aid to provide housings for them. It's unfortunate. The people out there listening, they're going to deal with you in the time to come. Mr. Deputy President, it's not my intention to school the member here this afternoon, but it's important to guide her. And the Bible of the Senate is the standing orders. And you need to go back to school in the standing order. You do research, go back and find your place in the standing orders. I want to take us to standing order number 36, page 26. And I want to look at number 5, and 6. He said, number 5 said, no senator shall impute improper motives to any member of either house. You did a research on the final Hansard to find out if discussions was held about a vote for parliamentary elections offices, and went as far as to call us liars. How could you degenerate to such a low level? It's important that you follow the standing orders. The standing orders are clear. Don't impute improper motives. And secondly, number 6, Her Majesty's or the Governor General's name shall not be used to influence the Senate. You're out of place. You cannot do such. Go back and get yourself schooled in the standing orders, and you will know you don't, by any means, bring the Governor General into those debates. I agree with you on the whole idea of health infrastructure. It's much more than buildings and so forth. It has a lot to do with softer sides, softer skills and all this stuff and so forth. Mr. Deputy President, a specific reference was made to electronic medical records. Why aren't we doing this? I just want to say to the member, with all the research that you have done, you didn't do a proper research. Mr. Deputy President, I just want leave to read 5 lines. Well, probably 3.5. Electronic medical record system has been implemented with the community health since 2016. There are also some other electronic systems for patient care. Electronic immunization registry, immunization program, SCLAB system, laboratory, patient lab results, that is there. X-ray system, system for antenatal program, all are there. So simple research would have proven that we have electronic medical records implemented in the country since 2016. I do believe probably the member in the research didn't find those information, but I just want to correct the record so that the people know it is there, and we have been doing this since 2016. It's also, Mr. Deputy President, for us to know that doctors within community can now access patient lab and X-ray results through the EMR project, the Electronic Medical Records Program. No more traveling to St. George's to collect results. If I could make one little research and I could find it, oh, I couldn't. Why? How you didn't find it? You're selective in your researching, man. Got to do better than that. When we're educating our students, we have to make sure that we cover all the bases. We get all the information and give it to them, because we do not want to misinform them. We talk about vaccination, and vaccination is the going thing right now, Mr. Deputy President, because the world is concerned. I mean, COVID, and I have a bone to suck with COVID in a while, so I'm going to spend some, give our place in a while. But really and truly, the world has gone bonkers because of COVID. And the move today is vaccination, vaccination, vaccination. We have stated very clearly that Grenada is not working on its own. We're working as a part of a global network within the OECS, within the sub-region, and then into the wider global community with specific partners. But just to state, I was a part of one meeting as it relates to, with PAHO, the World Bank and so forth, as it relates to COVID and response, and vaccination obviously came up. And what we are doing as it stands now to ensure that when we receive confirmation from WHO and PAHO as to the efficacy of a vaccine, we're moving in this direction. As a matter of fact, the World Bank has come on board and provided support for small states. Monies have been pledged already. So we're seeing in the second quarter of next year, we could be seeing a rollout of this. But we have other discussions with other partners who are helping us in this point in time as it relates to vaccination. And let me say to you, there is a plan already for distribution. The world is saying the first to get it is the frontline workers and your most vulnerable people on the line condition. We have a plan to ensure that this is done and done right. There is this other one. And I just want to set the record straight for the people of St. Andrew, my people, as it relates to the reconstruction of the Revenue Office. It's not the building, it's a reconstruction, because on the current site, there is a building that used to house the Revenue Office and so forth. That current site will be the site for the reconstruction of this complex, which will house Revenue Office, library, and so forth. So it's not a new location going into a vulnerable area. It is presently existing, the structure is presently existing in that spot. So it didn't come over right. So I want the people to know it's the same site the building will be erected. And then this other one, Mr. Deputy President, the strategy to receive funding support from our multilateral partners, bilateral partners, and countries is short-sighted because all countries are currently dealing with the impact of COVID-19. Again, research. You could have come and asked me. You could have asked anybody else. If it is right to say that it's short-sighted and you will not get support from your bilateral partners because they have to deal with COVID. But let me just educate my dear sister, who I love very much. I do. You know that. 2 weeks ago, practical example, 2 weeks ago, we signed with Japan a $1.8 million support for the country. We also got over $1 million from the People's Republic of China as a response to the present pandemic. And they said to us, yeah, I could take a big one. And they said to us, there are more where this came from. South Korea has also just given us a grant of $150,000 to deal with the present pandemic. And from the reaching out, we have reached out to our bilateral partners. We have received good words. So when we say this is a strategy, we're not speaking into thin air and just saying things as we feel, It's because we have it in the bag. Am I, brother? We have it. And hear this. The Japanese $1.8 million coming in January, in a few weeks' time. So, what you have failed to realize, that this government's record over the last 7 years is unparalleled by any government that have governed this country since 1974. This government's record, in terms of fiscal management, is unparalleled. No one could come close to us. And when we speak, don't question it. Don't. I'll give more as we go along. But, Mr. President, it's important for us to put the record straight that it's no idle boast. This government has succeeded in keeping this country together from 2013, when we came and we met a broken economy. Mr. President, as I've said before, the world is dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. an event unprecedented in the living memory of most of us. It was officially recognized as a pandemic on March 11th, 2020 by the World Health Organization. And I want to spend some time now on the Ministry of Health. The speed with which the pandemic spread across the globe triggered an international race to understand the virus itself and find ways to combat it. Researchers have been doing quite a lot, and I always gave credence to the science. And today we are seeing the rollout of vaccines that at one point in time they said it was not possible. But as we've seen in such a quick time, we've seen it is being distributed. With such great race in progress to understand the novel virus, the inevitable result was that the scientific consensus shifted frequently as new data emerged, and this undoubtedly presented challenges to policymakers who were trying to craft public health measures and provide clear and consistent guidance to its citizens. The global nature of the pandemic has resulted in the issue becoming a highly politicized one requiring clear national and global positions. Citizens must continue to depend on the government to set parameters for what they can or should do to validate information and to conform of social reality. Our government has responded. We have been quick to issue, sometimes not perfect, but recommendations and institute regulations to guide the behavior of all citizens in response to this virus. In our quest to ensure that we manage the public health crisis, we have sought to engage all stakeholders in an effort to ensure that collectively we make the most appropriate public health interventions. In short, Mr. Deputy President, we should not politicize health. This thing creates serious problems. Despite government's efforts, one of the areas of grave concerns was people using politics when we had to come together to combat the virus. The dangers of such acts have been flagged by government and lead organizations the world over, including the WHO. At home, Mr. President, we have consistently called for national unity to respond to COVID. We have called on all political parties, NGOs, and other interest groups to unite in the fight against the pandemic. This should have been our common enemy, nothing else. The idea of quarantine, travel restrictions, physical distancing, transition to blended schooling for our children, trade restrictions, and mandatory masking have incited strong feelings from both sides of the political aisle. We must, however, be mindful of the dangers of politicization of a disease that, by its very nature, does not have political lenience. When we politicize, we sow discord among our population. When persons fail to listen to, believe, and obey the voices of authority, our efforts to combat the disease become significantly undermined. When our efforts are marginalized, our risks multiplies. When we politicize this issue, we are not united, and the task of seeking aid becomes more arduous. In some instances, Mr. President, we lose critical aid while trying to get consensus on the way forward. When we politicize, we make it difficult to implement policies. And we had an experience of this. And changes to regulations which sometimes put additional strain on our law enforcement agencies because as governments, our aim is to ensure the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Currently, I'm seeing a fight right now in the United States to get people to accept the vaccine. And it's a hard one. Because leaders would have said they were not going to take it because under whose watch it was implemented or developed and so forth. Nonsense. When we tribalize this thing to that level, how will we be able to get our people to obey us? That's the problem that we are faced at this point in time. COVID is a present danger to the fabric of this nation. And we must stand resolute as a team. And I want to call on all of us in here. Let's work together as a team to fight COVID. Mr. President, the allocation for health in 2021 is $94.9 million. That's the highest ever. You will remember, on March 16, 2020, Grenada recorded its first case of COVID-19. And the hardest decision as a government we had to make was to shut the country down, close our borders. A difficult one. But we had to do it. March 23rd at 11:59 p.m. to March 29th, a 24-hour curfew. Bring back memories that I didn't want to revisit. But that was the reality. COVID, a present danger. An enemy that we had little or no knowledge about. But we had to do it. Mr. President, this is a very difficult road we all are called to travel. We all have our part to play to stop the spread. As of December 11, 2020, we had a total of 45 laboratory-confirmed COVID cases in the country. 41 recovered. But in a matter of 24 hours, this number moved from 41 to 71. From 45 to 71, sorry. This, of course, has jolted everybody. But one person said the minister, on speaking on the TV, he was angry. I'm not sure he was angry, but he was disappointed. Because we did all that we could have done. And all we ask is for you to follow the protocols. Follow the protocols. But this is what it is. This is our current reality. What is important going forward is for us as a people to take no more chances. Let's not risk it any further. Let's follow the protocols. Let's wear our masks. Let's do the distancing. And let's sanitize. Because it saves lives. And we have to join together. And I'm asking this honorable house, let's work together. Let us not see it as this side against the other side. But let's see it as one team. Working together for the common good of all our workers and people of this country. We have to. And my guess is the public health calls for that. We have to. Mr. President, mindful of the potential impact of the virus and the ability it has to destabilize and to kill people. And also, as we have seen in the first world countries, overwhelm the health system. We had to react and react fastly. Government took swift action to strengthen our health system, including by adopting new public health regulations to govern the national response to the pandemic, and by accelerating our pandemic preparedness capabilities through upgrading health facilities and equipping them with isolation capabilities. And increasing health expenditure to allow for more environmental health officers, personal protective equipment, as well as public awareness campaign. What was even more daunting for us, Mr. Deputy President? COVID-19 was not budgeted for. It came as a thief in the night, but we had to stand up to it. For the country's sake, for the people of this country's sake, we had to. And we had to find the resources to mount an adequate response. And up until the 11th, we did an extremely fantastic job. And I want to take this moment to commend the ministers of health right now and the team of first responders for keeping this country safe for this over 9 months without any deaths. We have to be thankful. Mr. President, the Ministry of Health embarked on a program of upgrading existing health infrastructure. Several medical stations and medical centers were refurbished, including on this list, Woburn Medical Center, Good Hope, Pedmota, and Granans. Also, the upgrading of Nurses Hostel at Princess Royal in Carriacou, as well as the replacement of one of the elevators at the General Hospital. On the issue of sustainable health financing, work advanced on the National Health Insurance Project, including the completion of the draft legislation. We are moving towards ensuring that we have a facility through NHI to provide the best health care for the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Mr. President, Deputy President, I am confident that despite the challenges, despite the hardship, despite what COVID-19 has done to us as a nation, we will overcome. We have done it before. We have showed resilience from Ivan and Emily. We have showed resilience throughout our history. And we will beat COVID. In direct response again to ensuring that we build capacity within the health sector and to provide the necessary means to roll out the best health care. Government would have hired new staffing for the General Hospital. We had nutritionists, intensivists, oncology nurse specialists, nose and throat specialists, ophthalmologists and OBGYN specialists, registered nurses, and staff nurses. The Ministry of Health deployed major equipment at district medical centers. 6 electrocardiogram machines, ECG machines, placed at all health centers. 5 automatic external defibrillator AED machines placed at all health centers in Grenada. We had autoclave and 2 installations of distillers at the St. George's Health Center and Leicester Medical Station in Carriacou. When we hear of ECG, it's always been seen as a top-class medical inventory. And to not only have it in the general hospital where it's supposed to be, but to have them in health centers across the nation is an indication as to where we want to go. In support of what we have said all along, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And if you can diagnose very early issues with the heart and so forth, there's a better chance of recovery. And that's the intention of the government. So by putting those machines in the medical stations, you're saying the most vulnerable in our population will have access to top-class medical responses. And this is a great moment, a proud moment for this government. Other areas of focus: enhanced delivery of patient care by improving diagnostic measures at the general hospital. Improve safety, infection prevention, and control and security measures. Additionally, Mr. Deputy President, as a means of enhancing the delivery of health care in the state of Grenada, the government appointed a second minister within the Ministry of Health. And you would agree with me and with us that COVID-19 was so impactful and would have created so much problem that you needed a second hand to ensure that primary health care has been given the focus. So the second minister has responsibility for hospital services and community outreach. And she brought a breath of fresh air within that department, within that ministry. And the team started working right away. To date, the team have embarked on a project of enhancing the ambience within the hospitals through the Adopt Award assistance, beautification, and minor repairs by the private sector. So we're going to reach out to the private sector. As a matter of fact, they came on board very early and say, we want to give support to this initiative. And they have been able to paint wards and so on. And I know there was an issue in the public domain and the media recently of some infestation of bugs at the Mungay Mental Hospital. I'm pleased to announce, Mr. Deputy President, that all the mattresses at the Mungay institution was changed. So I want to believe we have been able to curb that problem. In 2021, there will be the decentralization of services at the level of the community. Guelph and St. David's Health Centers will provide 24 hours emergency service with a phased approach of additional services such as minor surgeries and lab services for Princess Alice in Maribor and Princess Royal in Carriacou. In response to the increase in non-communicable diseases, there will be more education campaigns on the prevention of such. And I want to take the opportunity to invite our senators on the other side to join us in this education campaign to get our people to accept and to support the Buy Local, Eat Local campaign and to move towards eradicating or reducing the incidence of non-communicable diseases within the society. Mr. Deputy President, I want to move on to National Disaster Management Agency. Our vulnerability to natural hazards and other exogenous shocks compels us to cement resilience at the very core of government, and more importantly, embedded it within the fabric of our communities. Government is already doing its part to ensure that resilience is a key principle integrated into the design of policies and projects across government. NADMA, as a central coordinating body for disaster risks reduction, continues to work assiduously, despite the many challenges and constraints that have plagued the Secretariat for years. Notable strides in 2020. The Comprehensive Disaster Management Bill, which has been in draft for many years, the process has moved to having the drafting instructions done and submitted to the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Feedback has been received, and the agency looks forward in 2021 for the final consultation and finalization of the bill. Several plans and protocols were reviewed. The National Hurricane Plan, Emergency Operations Center Manual, and NADMA's notification procedures. Assistance and support were also given in the development of the following Customs Evacuation Plan, Coastal Master Plan, Marine Spatial Plan, the Nutrition in Emergency Disaster Management Plan, and a Hurricane Plan for the Silver Sands. And just based on the last one, we, as an agency, provide that sort of support to the private sector in helping them to develop emergency plans. Emergency plans for schools were developed and distributed to the following schools in the St. George Northwest District: the Uganda Martyrs Roman Catholic School, the Happy Hill Secondary School, the Montmorris Anglican, and the Westmoreland Primary and Secondary Schools in the town of St. George. Construction of the Emergency Operations Center, Disaster Relief Warehouses at Monjaloo in St. George and Bele in Carriacou. Mr. Deputy President, both projects are funded by the United States Southern Command and the government of Grenada to the tune of $6.5 million US. These projects are currently on schedule and are expected to be completed by March 2021. Mr. President, I am pleased to announce also that both facilities will be equipped with state-of-the-art communication equipment. The emergency operations centers and disaster relief warehouses will provide space for the administrative functions associated with an emergency operations center and logistic support associated with warehousing of disaster relief supplies, allowing the uninterrupted operations of the facility, missions during and after natural events, resulting in the overall strengthening of our institutional capacity. So we'll look in 2021, as we say, looking ahead to 2021, the key actions: strengthen the disaster risk reduction legislative and governance framework with the finalization of the disaster management bill. We will sought technical assistance from the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Operations Administration to ensure that we get it right. As part of the process, the existing committee structure within the Advisory Council will be reviewed to ensure relevance and fit within the proposed legislative and governance framework. Institutional strengthening of NADMA. The agency will also examine its own structure for relevance and fit, as well as to recruit personnel to boost its capacity to effectively manage disaster risks. Dedicated focus will be given to strengthen our volunteer corps. We must recognize and appreciate our citizens who, answer the call to serve the communities and country by volunteering. We have heard the concerns, and we will address them. Without our volunteers, our operations will be crippled. Tsunami Ready Project St. George's. Mr. President, during the month of November, the agency was advised by the Tsunami Warning Center that St. George's has been approved for funding to be certified Tsunami Ready. This project will be supported by USAID, CDEMA, USAID, and the local private sector, with in-kind contributions from UNESCO, IOC, Government of Grenada, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and the SRC, Seismic Research Center, among others. This Tsunami Ready program serves as an important reminder to us that hurricanes are not the only hazards that we must adequately prepare for. Our environment demands that we devise more robust systems to comprehensive disaster management, an observation that is reinforced by COVID-19. In 2018, Mr. Deputy President, St. Patrick was designated Tsunami Ready as the first parish within the state of Grenada. And given the close proximity to Kikem-Jenny, we thought it was the best decision that we could have made as it relates to getting the community ready in the event of a tsunami. In 2019, Carriacou and Petite Martinique were certified. And as I said, 2021 will be St. George. And I look forward to this because it takes a community and the resilience of a community to able to withstand the impact or to mitigate against the impact of hazards. Tsunami ready, or getting tsunami ready, is necessary. Given that with the study that was done by New York University as to having St. George being the first climate smart city in the region, also identified that we are vulnerable to sea level rise. And that being a concern, it was necessary for us at this point to embark on this journey of having St. George Tsunami Ready certified. I look forward to the work which will be done over a 24-month period. It's a lot of work to get all the signs done and erected, to have the inundation map prepared, and this has to be done with the potential threat from wave currents. In this case, mainly from the western corridor, the Caribbean Sea. Yes, to the south, the exposure from the Atlantic side, the eastern side. So quite a lot of work will be required, and I want to take this opportunity to invite our private sector to continue to give support to the agency as they have done in the past, to ensure that we get this right, and we will be able to provide the necessary support to protecting the capital city, St. George. Mr. Deputy President, the work will continue to ensure that we maintain our readiness destination. It is important also to note that the threat of natural hazards is not only hurricanes. I understand between June and November, the entire country is focused on the possible impact of a hurricane or storm. But as I've said before, there are several hazards that we are exposed to. I know we have done a study on the Western Corridor because we had a boulder some time ago sliding off the banks and unfortunately falling on a minivan, one of the buses. And all the passengers perished. That's a danger that we are exposed to. So there are a lot of hazards that we are exposed to apart from hurricanes. And I'm extremely happy that the Caribbean Tsunami Center has decided to support the motion or the request from Grenada to have St. George's designated. And what is even sweeter, we are the only country this year or next year that will be certified. That is even special, most special for us. And this is a reflection of the work that we have been doing in this regard over the years. The Department of Public Administration. The Department of Public Administration remains committed to driving an ambitious agenda to modernize the operations of the public service. The DPA's vision is to build an innovative, adaptable, and resilient public service. Key actions: promote digital transformation of the public service by leveraging technology to work smarter and build resilience across all institutions. Transformation is critical, now more than ever in the present circumstances, and we have taken the necessary steps to ensure that we are not left behind. The Digital Governance for Resilience project, DG4R, which is a US $15 million project, and the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, which is US $8 million.
Senator, you have 15 minutes left.
So I'm on the bonus. Okay, thanks. I think I got it right here.
We'll have some cool with that.
I want to substitute extra time and remove bonus. So I'm on extra time. Thanks. Key action, as I said, to promote digital transformation of the public service by leveraging technology to work smarter and build resilience across all institutions. Amidst the disruption of the ongoing pandemic, key procurement activities have been initiated. In 2021, work will begin on the completion of the digitization of the Records and Lands and Deeds Registry and the digitization of the records at the Probate Registry will be completed. Other major project activities would center on e-payments, digital identity, tax administration. Overall, the DG4R project will develop the cross-cutting enablers of digital government. The Caribbean Digital Transformation Project activities are designed to support the expansion of the benefits of this digitization to the general public and private sector through skills and technology adoption support. It is without question, Mr. President, that technology is what's going to drive, or what is driving us in this period. And COVID-19 has taught us several lessons. But one important one is this: you have the tools, use it. Use it. So, and that's the main focus of the Department of Public Administration, to ensure that we stay at the cutting edge of the using of the technology, but most importantly, to bring the entire public service in this direction. Information and communication technology. Government is cognizant that its greatest future assets are digital assets, and that it must actively drive the development of the digital economy. A critical part of that infrastructure is a national data center, which has been constructed with funding from the CACIP project. This facility will host critical systems and digital services. Work is almost complete, and the data center will be commissioned in early 2021, allowing for the migration of several disparate government agencies into a state-of-the-art digital hosting facility. And just to say to you, the facility will be within the compound of the Emergency Operations Center and warehouse for NADMA in Manjulu. What a beautiful mix. We will be there as NADMA to coordinate responses to whatever impact we may have from hazards. We will provide security, of course, for the digital data center. But let's look at how they will complement each other. And I look forward to both facilities being commissioned in early 2021. But, Mr. Deputy President, it speaks also to the forward thinking of this government in ensuring that we bring this country along with technology, because that's the way we need to go on. If we've been talking ever so long, Prime Minister being the Prime Minister, the Minister within the region for Science and Technology. And one may ask, what do you have to show for it? What we're doing in the transformation of government and the governance of this country, and having your data center and all your data housed in a specific location to ensure that you're able to respond adequately to the needs of your people? That is forward thinking. And that is progress. And that's what we have been saying all along we will do as a government. Education is a co-enabler of going digital. And so the Ministry of ICT procure Microsoft Office 365 license for all students, teachers, and the Ministry of Education officials to promote online collaboration and sharing of information. Teamwork, remote learning, and will greatly enhance the education of our nation's students. This will also augment the tablets and e-books initiatives in schools. All the domain names have been developed, and in the first quarter of 2021, beginning with secondary schools, all students and teachers would have their own unique email address. That is progress Mr. Deputy President. COVID-19 has taught us many things and has brought us to the fore that the need for a digital platform to transform cash payments to citizens who are beneficiaries under government social programs. The Ministry of ICT has collaborated with a private company, WePay, to pilot a project that will implement a digital cash transfer system that will allow citizens to access the social funds without physically visiting a revenue office. Great move, Mr. Deputy President. Great move. The security that is embedded in this, that our senior citizens will not have to walk with cash, but they walk with a piece of plastic, the card. And they can go into the business places and purchase, utilizing the resources from government through this facility. Innovation, but also visionary. Very innovative move, and I want to commend the Ministry of ICT for taking this proactive stance to assist our most vulnerable people. And think about it. At this point, during the COVID lockdown, we had our officers having to visit to the various homes and provide the service to our beneficiaries. Right now, at their pace. And I remember some time ago the criticism, because folks, they know when they will be paid. In the past, there was some competition in the Treasury, because those beneficiaries of seed and other government recipients of whatever benefits met up at the Treasury. And we had long lines, and people had to remain in the sun and all this stuff and so forth. There will be none of this anymore. You have a card, and at your own pace, you go into your supermarket, into your wherever, and able to access your funds. This will revolutionize government social program delivery by increasing accessibility and reducing inefficiency in the payment system. Additionally, WePay will also provide support to 1,000 small businesses seeking to do business online. The pilot will be implemented at zero cost to the government of Grenada. What else you want? Your government is at work. Government working for you, ensuring that you have the facility, and WePay will be working with 1,000 small businesses, so they will have the facility so our beneficiaries can redeem the card or get the funds from the card. Special projects. In the area of special projects, government was able to improve over 50 minimal infrastructure projects within the various communities to the tune of $7 million. And in so doing, created close to 900 jobs for both men and women within the communities. In the coming year, the focus will be on strengthening the means of implementation for sustainable development. Additionally, in its effort to reduce poverty, government was able to assist over 6,000 vulnerable families and over 12,500 students in receiving quality education at a cost of $2.1 million. As a long-term priority, government will keep in focus the reduction of poverty through its wider social protection efforts. And Mr. Deputy President, as we have said and we agreed to, and I know you agree to this philosophy, the surest path towards removing or taking your people out of poverty is through education. And the government spare no effort through its school books program, through its uniform assistance program, through its transportation allowance program, through its tuition program, to ensure that our students, the beneficiaries of those programs are given the opportunity to enhance themselves. And I'm pleased to announce that some of our beneficiaries not only succeeded at the common entrance level and the secondary level, but at the tertiary. And also at the university level. They have succeeded coming at the top of the classes. So it has shown, Mr. Deputy President, that if you provide the means as giving them a hand up, they will succeed. And that's what we are seeing through these programs. The Ministry of National Security will continue to focus on strengthening the national security architecture. To this end, a comprehensive multi-sectoral strategy and corresponding policy will be developed, which will address moral, economic, environmental, and social issues. The crime statistics at the end of September, when compared to the same period in 2019, has shown a reduction in reported cases of all major categories of crime, except for property crimes, especially pre-deal larceny, housebreaking, and stealing in general. In 2021, the RGPF will work closely with the Ministry of Social Development and other partners such as churches with a view to preventing and detecting crimes and maintaining confidence in the police as a credible institution. Furthermore, the RGPF will find new and innovative ways to partner with the community to address this disturbing concern. In the area of home affairs, government will focus on strengthening the legislative framework for citizenship and permanent residence to address the weaknesses in the present legislation. This will ultimately enhance and broader control. This will ultimately enhance the border control and protection mechanism for the state of Grenada. To date, the policy to inform the revision of this legislation framework was completed and approved by Cabinet. This will lay the foundation for the implementation of the legislation in 2021. Mr. Deputy President, we all know the value of the CBI and so to this state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martin. We all recognize the benefits of it. And because of what we have been able to do over the years, in terms of control, in terms of ensuring that we employ all the necessary strategies to protect this document, we have not ended up in any scandal as we have seen elsewhere. But ever so often, we constantly refine what we do and look at legislation to ensure that we are on par with the changing times. So what we are about to do at this point in time is to ensure that the legislation will continue to be relevant to the current environment that we are in. And I'm extremely pleased to state that we have been able to do a good job. And despite the criticism and despite the attacks on the CBI program, we have been able to protect the face of this country because our due diligence is second to none. It's very impeccable. And we go out there to ensure that whoever will get that piece of document to say that they are a citizen of this country, they are deserving of it. We will not in any way trade the reputation of this country for $2. And there are times when if something doesn't look right and the report says we have concern in the area, we don't go. As much as we may want the resources, but I'll set the guiding principle here. The reputation of this country is above everything else. And we have been able to do this, and we'll continue to do it, because at the end of the day, this is all that we have. This place we call home, pure Grenada, the spice of the Caribbean. There's no other place as beautiful as this our rock. And I must add, safe. I've had a fair bit of travel around. And with all the places I've been, they may have more resources than us. But the peace and tranquility that one experiences in this country is second to none. And that's one of the reasons why so many want to come to enjoy this piece of paradise. And I often boast when I travel, and in the past, and say, "Where ask where you from?" I say, "From Grenada." And I said, the only place you say in the world that you can go to heaven without having to die. And they get it. I said, "Oh, it's a beautiful place." "Yeah, of course it is." And people want to be a part of it. And talk about how hospitable we are as a people. And that's why I started my presentation by asking for us to work together in fighting COVID. Because COVID have no friend. In the early days, they said more the senior people are most susceptible to contracting the virus. Today we are seeing children. So the science, things have been changing as we go along. But what is important here? That as a people, we mount a response, and we mount a response together. In closing, Mr. Deputy President, I want to say to us that we have an opportunity to get it right in our fight against COVID. And let us do it together as a team. I thank you.
Senator Sinclair.
Yes, okay. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Deputy President, and of course, fellow members. I want to say good afternoon also to everyone that's listening, both locally and overseas, to our farmers, fisher folks, processors, I would say my constituents. Good evening. I stand here to make contribution towards this budget debate, and I want to start by saying, how did we get here? And of course, I want to give thanks to everyone who would have contributed to the process. A lot of times folks think that maybe we just come and discuss the budget here, but there is a process of consultations with the different sectors. I myself have participated in many of those through the years. And of course, COVID this year would have made it a little bit more challenging for a lot of persons, in that the technology that would have been used may not have been readily available to several persons, especially in my sector of agriculture. The real man on the ground, I think he was out of the mix. Despite all of that, though, we are here today. The folks at the different ministries and government agencies, I think they work hard, because everyone was looking for the budget to happen earlier, but they was able to deliver. We didn't have to go into all next year trying to figure that out. So I think as a country, we have to applaud that. And we should be happy that we have a budget. As our sister said this morning, you need to have a plan. And the fact that you have something, that we have something to work with, to discuss, it's give us a good starting point. So I want to start my statement in that regards. I want to say further, in response to my good brother, Senator Garwe, on the other side, in terms of working together, and he raised some important issues as it relates to being healthy and resilient and all of those things, because once we want to be able to fight this disease that have taught us from small, we need to be eating our fruits and vegetables and those things. And so, as a senator representing this very said constituents, we want to say we are happy that you would be highlighting that, because you could talk about it, but we are the ones that have to give you, and the rest of the nation. But to do it, we would need the means. Yeah, we can't just do it so. If we don't have land, we don't have seeds, we don't have fertilizer. So we need to ensure that it's supported, because we could have all the campaigns and all of those exhibitions, and we'll stand there with open hands, with empty bags, waiting for the produce to come, and it may never come. The good news is that I think the United Nations General Assembly, only recently, they have recognized the significance of these fruits and vegetables, to the point that it's not only about supporting the livelihoods of our farmers, but also the whole issue of our health and wellness. We in Grenada, we know that we have done well. It's not all that bad. Eh? We have done well. We have been able to get fruits and vegetables. In fact, while I'm here, I actually got some fruits and vegetables a while ago that I want to share with some of the... I actually have some fruits and veg from our local farmers that I want to show us. The ginger, which they say is good for COVID. Have citrus, bananas, seasoning, avocados, and so on. So our farmers are producing. Well, not one package for everyone, but you can have samples at the end of the day. Okay, so our farmers are producing, and I wanted to make that point here today. I didn't bring fish because that's another discussion in terms of keeping it on ice, and we have ice machine issues, which we're going to talk about later on. But the fruits and vegetables, and the fact that next year, 2021, is the fruits and vegetables year, I want to bring it here, and so it's a good start for all of us. In 2022, which makes it even good, in 10 years period, 2022, it will be the year of artisanal fishing or fishing and aquaculture. So we on the right track. We're on the right track. So I wanted to start off my presentation with these comments. Mr. Deputy President, I was trying to figure out where to start, because there is so much points of starting. And I went back to the budget statement presented on the 2nd of December 2020. And I love it. I love it because it speaks the right language. And what is important is, once the language is spoken, it gives all of us something to hold on to and to work towards and to hold each other accountable. So if I speak just for 30 seconds, it says, beyond the goal of food and nutrition security, a strong and vibrant agriculture sector, these are nice words, will support economic growth, employment, and foreign exchange. So this is good. So I am a young person, elderly, I want to invest. This is good statements. It says further, we must therefore seize the opportunity to redouble our efforts. You know, sometimes people say, if I'm working harder, I need more pay. Eh? So, and then the people say, well, no, but the budget allocation is shrinking. So how could I work harder, but I'm not getting the rewards? So he says we must redouble our efforts to achieve a modern agriculture sector. This is good. I spoke of this in my maiden speech about the new agriculture, so I interpret that is the meaning. That includes value addition production, youth involvement, it's good. The application of relevant technology, excellent. Capacity building, training. Research and development, which was mentioned today, and when I look at the budget for agriculture and I see $48,000 for research and development, I sort of shrink. I know that figure is just placed there. I really didn't take it as the true figure, because there is so much things that is happening for us to research on in agriculture, to able to advise our farmers, advise our fisher folks, our processors, and so on. So I know that was not really true, because other projects that might be taking place within the government sector, agriculture, would be doing some kind of research going on. So I thought that there might have been a note somewhere explaining further. And of course, adaptation to climate change. And this is very important. I know dear Senator Gawe speak in that context. It is a very serious issue. So it is within all of those minds that I want to get rolling, Mr. Deputy President. So then I reflect on the theme of the budget. You know, it's funny, I said like I'm back to school when I was in Form 1 and I had to write an essay. They say,
Mr. Deputy Chair, and my brother, I'm sorry to disturb, but just that others can follow, I would advise that the honorable brother, when he's quoting, he tells us the page or exactly what he's quoting from so we can follow you.
okay. Okay, well, I say you all are very familiar with this document, Senator. Page 17, agriculture, that's where we're speaking. Page 17, section 9, 9.1, 9.11. Okay, within that page, okay? But it's a good point. It means that no one is sleeping here this evening. Okay, so on the issue of the theme for the budget, we speak about towards 2035, and it's good. And I looked at the matrix and all of those things to see the application. But then I went further, and it says recovery. I say, okay, recovery is good. That's a very important point, because as a nation, we're trying to recover. We have been set back with COVID. We always have to agree with that. You speak of transformation, but I'll come back to and you speak of resilience, and I sort of understand resilience, you know, it's how do you withstand and handle. But the transformation part, I had some difficulty trying to understand the transformation. So I used technology and I said, let me go and see what Google has to say on transformation. And it says that something must change to the point that you're not to show what it really was before, but not only changing that you didn't know what it was before, meaning that you don't mash it up, but it must be better. And so I start looking, and I may not have been good as a sister in reading out all these numbers, but I saw, for example, $3 million for the traffic light, $100,000 for agro-processing testing in the produce chem lab. And I say, but I see a salary freeze for no technician. That's a place that was my first job in my life, as a lab technician. And to me, after 20-something years, the lab still doesn't have a technician, but we still have monies for testing and so on. So that sort of worried me, and I think the budget is still in debating, so there might be some discussion there. Then I see the propagating stations, $200,000. But I'm aware that we have a greenhouse set up in Maribo in particular that needs some fan and some other electrical things that worth much more than this money. And I wonder, 2 years now it's sitting there. What is the transformation? That is my concern. Then I realize the farmers has to find some private approach to get their farms plowed. Land preparation, any extension officer will tell you is very important to produce these products. And so I say, well, transform is to improve, but if you don't have it, what's the improvement when the farmer has to pay more? I say, well, maybe there is some subsidy the government might partner with offsetting some of these costs for the farmers to get the lands plowed. I'm not too sure. And then I look at the land bank situation, and that's where I sort of get scared. Because I remember in my research for my maiden speech, I read that during the Gary era, land for the landless, cutting up lands, is part of the reason why they give for the whole issue with agriculture declining. And when I did my little intelligentsia, I learned that government has strong land that they want to cut up. Please, there are many private persons who have lands. And our dear Senator, I'm so happy that you're here that we could discuss. We had idle land tax that we wanted to put, and I think maybe that was on hold, or maybe it's just silent. But the bottom line is that the government, in its own wisdom, recognized that there are many other lands beside Crown lands that are available, that the government can go into different negotiations, put them in some sort of real bank, and persons can apply and get them, and some person might be away, so they don't want to be handling all of those lands, they're old. So that to me is transformation than taking up the lands and cutting them up like some real estate operation that is taking place. And the list goes on, but if I spend time here, it will be just too long. And then we speak about the school feeding program. Excellent opportunity. And I know, dear Senator, leader of government business, we know we had a lot of discussion how we can improve the local supplies to the schools. The question is on that. You may say, why am I going there? I'm going there because what percentage of this $3 million that we are allocating will be buying our nice, local, healthy fruits, vegetables, fish, and poultry, and so on? That is my concern, not the amount of money. Is where it's going to be spending. Because if we come and we complain, oh, so much money is being spent on overseas and import, then we must act in such manner to show that we're going to buy local, we're going to eat local, we're going to grow more of what we eat, and we're going to eat more of what we grow. That is the sink of the language. And of course, our Youth in Agriculture project, I know the money that is there is not the real money. I know you have a project coming, so I know that was also a sort of understatement, and so I applaud that, right? But we will speak more about that. Community tourism. Well, I learned a while ago it was a lot of it to do with signs and so on, but I think we need to do more with that. And so I asked myself, and I'm going to bring it up early so I get it out of the way, why is it we tend to have all tourism project and construction taking place on the seaside, along the shores, and putting so much of pressures of pollution and so on our coastal lines, affecting our fisher folks, our fisheries, our tourists who maybe want to still go and swim? Why? You mean there is no more lands? Is there some law saying that it's only around our coastal zones we have to put these resorts? So if we're speaking about community tourism, I'm not saying there are not communities along the shorelines, but there are a lot of communities on the inside of our country that we don't have to be big 500-room hotels, but a lot of these nice little boutique hotels and so on we've been speaking about, where these tourists can really intermingle and really be part of this community that is supposed to be, rather than them having to take a taxi and go to some place and say they community tourism. I think so. I think we can do better there. Then I take a look and I see, and I personally went and checked out those fish markets throughout the country. And myself and Minister Joseph, Minister Bain Hosford, we had a nice meeting and we shared the views. And she actually expounded on those views in her presentation. But when I look at, so we have to do some work in Sotes in that fish market there. It's not right, and we agree on that. But I look at the budget of 180,000, and I hope I see it right in the budget. And last year we spent just $6,380. But what is interesting, Mr. Deputy President, is that the sales from ICE was over $300,000. Yet still, several of our ice machines are down. In fact, there are private persons selling ice to the fisher folks. The Sotes fisher folks, they are very good to get some benefit from the MAREP program. So there are some good things, and I don't want us to lose sight of that. And there are other good things that is happening, which I will speak about in a while. So we need to get the ice, because that will affect fishing. Is our #1 export, if we're not too sure about that, to over $20-something million. And even within natural disasters, the hurricane and so on, in Ivan, fish still remain up because the blue economy. It's one of the richest. It's richer than the land that we're standing on today. So I believe that we should really act on this speedily. And then I look at Prix de l'Assaini, and I say this morning I'm so happy because the numbers in the Prix de l'Assaini moved from about 30, and it's down to about 7, and this 7 most time is doing other things. Yes, I see a lot of newspapers saying that, they hold some people and they hold some other persons for stealing, but as I would have said before, we need to have what I refer to as community wardens, where these persons are within the community so they know who those thieves, as we would say, are, rather than they're sitting in a police station and then they'll be reassigned. Because of course, if the police have some emerging matter, and we all would understand that, they want to call on that first, and then on the other side, the real purpose. And so at the end of the day, we'll come and make noise about it. But really and truly, if we do it in that sort of way, it would be helpful for everybody, safer and better. We speak about export. I'll just go through your budget information. And I heard the Minister for Trade, it was very nice. So, marketing board, you need to do more, and we'll do, and we know marketing board have their own challenges, but strike that. I think the institution is there, and we have to support the institution to be able to do what it's supposed to do. I think that's the spirit we have to work with. But on the back end, I would have heard our finance minister say, for agriculture to really do good, you have to be export. You have to export. And this is good, so that we could provide more jobs. And that is how agriculture would really have a benefit. So I say, but hold on. But we're doing debushing, we're doing farm labor support, that provides a lot of jobs too. So if we also export, we could provide more jobs. But I want to make a point, because I know our farmers and fisher folks might be saying, you need to address this matter. Almost 10,000 farmers in this country would have at least 1 or 2 persons working along with them. With them. I know our dear senator knows that. And if I heard the definition right, I'm not a labor specialist. Once you work for an hour a day, you're employed. So if I work the 10,000 mats, and even if you say half of that, hire at least 1 or 2 persons, we could easily calculate the number of jobs with simple maths. So what I'm saying is that when we say those things, I'm not seeing the transformation. So I then take another look and we speak about, well, we need more jobs and we need the construction, and we all agree with that. Let's don't lose sight of that. And then I say, well, if we are doing these jobs, this is good. But if we spend $3 million to do these traffic lights, what would happen to those wardens that just be all around town managing things? Wouldn't we have to send them home? Or we have places that we don't have no traffic light that we go find to put them? I even joked this morning with a friend and said, well, I know you normally have a free warden guy walking on top Cemetery Hill there that maybe he might even need to get a walk too, because he's doing an excellent work and there's no traffic light up there. You know? I would say there is one traffic light that is working in Grenada. 90% of the time is the one in Paradise Bridge. Travel that every day. When there is no traffic light, it creates a little challenge. Other than that, I wonder. I drive through St. George's and I even call the head of the traffic in town and then I say, you know, keep the ladies as the traffic warden, please. Because when they're on the traffic move through St. George's so smooth and nice, you will not know. I called him personally, Mr. Langdon. I think he's not too well now, but I don't know. That's another research. But it's a fact. That is my experience. Okay? So, and then the last part, before I go into some other things, I say, okay, people talking about the airport and why we should spend money on the airport and so on, and I don't want to go into that debate. The debate I want to go into is when it is said that, you know, if we have the airport, and I understand some of those challenges because, I mean, for my whole job and exporting and so on, we have issues of cargo compliance, and we understand all of those challenges. We would have more facilities, cold storage facilities. We understand all of those things. And I think on behalf of the Exporters Association and other exporters, we'll welcome that, because sometimes you have to ship, like if you have an early plane like that leaving, say, 6 o'clock in the morning flight, and as a passenger you have to reach 3 hours before, so that's 3 o'clock. The cargo going through the same area, they have to come at least 2 hours, so almost 5 hours, so sometimes 12 o'clock in the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, exporters have to be on the airport to get their stuff through and then clear enough for the passengers to pass. So I understand all of those things. My concern is we would have more flights coming in. And the history I've seen is that the more flights come in, is the more I would have to provide this airlift subsidy. Have it there just in case they don't meet their quota to sub, and that is my concern. So when everything come back to normal, with more airlines coming in, I'm seeing us having to dig deeper into our pockets to subsidize these on-field flights when they cannot make it. The irony about this, Mr. Deputy President, is that save and except a dedicated cargo line and one other airline, a lot of our exports try to find themselves into New York, where our own people are there, our own diaspora. And some of those flights that come in here with the passengers, they don't take any cargo to go back to the places like New York and so on, because of the different policies and so on. It's a discussion that I personally have had along with my sector's colleagues to see how we can address that. I know there are issues around that in terms of the insurances and all of those things, but I think it's something that we need to work on to be more fair to our people. Because if we go back to the history, I'm not too sure what Gary would have said, but Maurice Bishop would have said when the airport is established, planes will be leaving with our goods from Grenada. But the only how the planes will leave with goods from Grenada now is that I have to make sure that I have a ticket and that is my carry-on and my other cargo that I would have to pay as a passenger. I think, to use the word of Senator Garvey, we have to do better than that. So, I will spend a few minutes and say what is good. There are a lot of good things. The climate smart agriculture, the feeder roads, and I see all of those. And some of those, based on my personal involvement, I am involved in a lot of this, and so I'm good with that. Crop insurance, I know we are working on it. I know the government is supporting this initiative. I think it might be our omission. It's not there this time. And I know the government will still make this contribution, but the problem is that if we're going to follow all of these little rules of F rules and this, although Brother Garvey say, well, I don't know, there is some clause that he doesn't always hold. We know that government will still, but when the stakeholders don't see those things there in black and white, they get worried. And a lot of times those things get left out because why? The implementation rate and the execution is so low that, you know, like it always get going down, like agriculture down, and I was watching the things, fisheries down, and I also got worried that I see tourism is just before agriculture. And I say, wow, like somebody catching up with somebody. Okay? So these are just some of my comments on that. I want to sorry about that. I had a mental block because I see the word freeze, and that's why we say that we have a lot of freezing of positions. I'm very worried, particularly in the two industries for which I speak. Fisheries, we have known, if we look around, and I cannot call their names here, but a lot of the senior, all the fisheries officers, they are gone. The same thing in Ministry of Agriculture. And I was so happy that Brother Senator Bola is back because it is like another reinforcement. I'm not too sure where he'll find himself eventually, but to provide that support within the Ministry of Agriculture. But himself, if he end up back in the Ministry of Agriculture by some chance, along with my good friend Minister David, generals may have ideas and sit in the back room and they may put on the boots and they may go all out. But the real man on the ground who fighting day and night is the real infantry men. And they are not there in the Ministry of Agriculture. 99% of them, I'm sure, are retired. In fact, I was in a session only last week to deal with some climate resilience. Another nice project again, it's lovely. Don't think I'm against those things. And, you know, the chairman of the session said, you know, it's a bittersweet moment, you know, because we've been working on this thing for so long, you know, and such who was working is retired. And so, you know, I and all even almost nearly cry about this thing because, you know, you put all your effort into something and they sit back and say, oh, Lord, I'm not there to help implement it. So it shows us that with all the good intention, with all the good intention, we have in those issues. Of course, I hear in your brother Bola is 16. But there is something called planning. Succession planning. And I know Brother Maureen and the PS, since he came into the agriculture, you know, people, we have different views on matters. He always speak about that, but you know, sometimes if the boat spring away too early, he helpless. The time is, things is happening quicker. And it reflects on all of these individuals. It comes back to the whole issue, and I'm going back to my maiden speech. Just count 40 years for everything, and you will see what has happened in this country. Everything that happened in that span. So all the persons would have gone to Cuba, gone to wherever, and study and come back. We never was replacing the stocks because we feel they're there forever. We never realized we'd have had this type of hard times where we have to have all these attrition policies. But what have we done in the last maybe 10 years, 15 years, with due respect to everybody's profession? Lawyers, doctors, engineers, business persons, economics, psychology, not agriculture. So what really has changed? That all of a sudden, the maybe 200-300 persons who were studying agriculture back then, like a new generation of persons, they don't know what. So now we say, well, we have to have youth in agriculture. So we're starting again. And it will take us maybe another 4 or 5 years. By that time, I gone 60, all of us gone 60. And what happens to our food security? That we know that we're getting lapse right now. We may pass the budget. Monies may spend, things may happen. But in the next 8 to 10 years, we might be sitting down and wonder, where is the food coming from? Who is there to prepare the food? So sometimes they say, how you make your bed, so you shall lie. And I think we have a good chance to make a good bed before we lie down. So I look at it and I say to my dear Minister of Agriculture, I'm worried for him. I was speaking to a farmer and he said, you know, he's a good man. He come out and he see us and everything and he say, but you know, like they set the pack and all he end up with is Jack. I say, oh, I say, I don't understand. He say, well, if the man is on bare Jack, people don't play cards like that, you know. You have to knock again for a reshuffle. Mr. Bola, Senator Bola, I know you is not another Trump, so I know you're not another Trump, you know. But yeah, but it's like that, eh? It's like that. But I think it brings a good spirit, and so I think all of these things are going good. So in that context, I know sometimes we get the bell 10 minutes before, but I'm not too sure how much minutes I have again. I have time? Okay, good. So I want to go into some thoughts and suggestions and approaches that we can, with what we have, is how we do it. I'm not even asking you to take more money and to find more money. You might realize you need less money. And so, again, my good minister speak of organization and planning, which is so good. He started in the right place. We need to kind of refresh and put everything in perspective. And I endorse that. So, what do I propose? I come here today and I try to figure out every time I speak, I must have a topic sentence. I must have a topic, a theme with which to communicate. And so, this is how much now.
Senator Sinclair, sorry, I need to adjourn for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then we come back and you continue in mid-flight.
Okay, I thought I was wondering what time, move this time fast forward. No problem.
No.
Thank you.
The chair needs a 5-minute break.
Okay, no problem.
So we adjourn for 5 minutes.
Okay. Your Honor, when this time gone? Yeah. No, I mean, I'll finish maybe before time, and I want to, with this time, accelerate too.
Why that?
Yeah, and the early thing, my marketing mode. Yeah. Oh boy.
Remember, if you have flu symptoms, do the right thing and stay at home to avoid giving it to others. Remember, you can be infectious up to a week after developing symptoms, so rest up and take it easy.
Feel good facts.
Help prevent cold and flu by washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. That's the time it takes to remove most germs. No soap and water? No worries when you've got alcohol-based hand sanitizer.